Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us at St. Edward's University to honor Dr. Emma Lou Linn. So whether you are an alum who is returning home to the hilltop or a guest who has come tonight for the first time, we are so honored that you have joined us to celebrate this highly accomplished and much beloved professor, community leader, and member of our St. Edward's family. I am Monse Fuentes, and I have the pleasure of serving as president of this amazing institution. Over 50 years, Emma Lou taught more than 5,000 hilltoppers. She has shown us what it really means to be a Holy Cross educator through her commitment to academic excellence, moral reasoning, and to meeting every person where they are. St. Edward's honors and respects all members of our community. We foster an inclusive and welcoming environment, respecting the dignity and worth of every person, and we stress the obligation to pursue a more just world. Our Holy Cross mission calls us to actively pursue a diverse and inclusive and equitable and justice-oriented environment for all. So as we recognize Emma Lou for all her accomplishments, I especially want to honor her legacy of elevating and amplifying the voices of underrepresented persons in our community. She has been a special champion for the rights of and inclusion of women in Austin and in higher education in general. So as the first Hispanic woman to lead the university, I especially want to thank and acknowledge her work on systematic change that lifts up barriers and opens doors for others. We are tremendously grateful to Dr. Linn and her friends here with us today who are helping us to recognize her today. Nell Forner is one of her friends. Nell's life and career had been touched by Emma Lou's leadership in establishing the women's athletics program at St. Edward's. After graduating, Nell worked as a college women's basketball coach, most recently for Auburn University. Now she's an analyst for ESPN. And tonight, she joins us here to honor Dr. Emma Lou Linn. Nell, please join us here at the podium.
Oh, hey, everybody. How y'all doing? Look, this is Emma's night, so we need to have some fun, right? Look, if I know this, that to know Emma Lou Linn is to have a friend for life. Am I right? I mean, it's like you don't meet her. Yeah, absolutely. And I've always thought, if you don't know Emma Lou Linn, it's only because she hasn't met you yet. Because everybody that Emma meets, she's going to befriend you. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of people in this audience that could be standing here telling stories about Emma. I got elected, I don't know how, but here we go, okay? I've known Emma for a long, long time, probably at least 45 years. So I'm aging myself right there. But I met her when I was a young basketball player at the University of Texas. And I came across her in what was called the Fast Break Club, which was one of the first, maybe the first women's basketball booster clubs for a collegiate women's team in the country. So this was happening right after Title IX was really in full effect. Now, me and Emma are connected this way. She played basketball at the University of Texas before Title IX. I played basketball at the University of Texas after Title IX. So there are some differences there, but she was a fantastic athlete. She always maintained her love for athletics, for women's athletics, and especially not only at St. Edward's, where she was tremendously involved in creating this department for women's athletics, but also at the University of Texas and helping Jody Conrad build that Fast Break Club along with the other people that I'm looking at in this audience right now. Emma's influence from starting at a very young age, but coming up through the Austin City Council, being the second woman ever elected to the Austin City Council, that's impressive enough in itself, especially during a time when that just wasn't happening, y'all. It just wasn't happening in the 70s. But she has a personality and a love and a drive and a push that really just She puts herself upon you in a wonderful way, in a positive way, in a way that you'll never forget. I'm going to tell you a couple of things that have influenced me. Look, I've traveled a lot of roads in my life. I've got to experience a lot of great things, but you don't do that by yourself. And Emma was a big influence on me in several ways. First of all, she's extremely smart, so I always listened to what she had to say. She had the energy and the enthusiasm that just drove you, a spirit about her that connected you to her immediately. And that's one thing I'll never forget upon meeting her, because it always attracted me to her. But she took a divine interest in me as a student athlete and as a person. Y'all, I was a young kid walking down 6th Street one day on a Sunday afternoon in the month of May. Well, there's a big sporting event that happens in May, and it involves chocolate-covered strawberries and mint juleps. Do we all know what I'm talking about? Yes. Well, nobody likes a good party or can put on a good party like Emma Lou Linn can. And so here I am, a young kid with a couple of my friends, and there's a party going on, and I know where she lives. I'm like, let's go check this out. So we go upstairs, and no, we're not invited. But when we walked into that house, into her apartment, we were like just blown away, because she's a foodie. So there's going to be beautiful hors d'oeuvres, and there's going to be lots of wonderful cocktails, and the derby's about to come on the TV. And I felt like I had stepped off. I was like, it was like the Wizard of Oz. I had stepped into a different place. And she made us feel so welcome and so invited. She was so inviting to us. And I tasted that strawberry for the first time, and I've never looked back. I was like, I want stuff like that. You know, I wasn't so crazy about the mint julep, but that's all right. Those chocolate covered strawberries were really good. And she was, anyway, we didn't stay long. She was extremely gracious to a bunch of young kids. And, but I'll never forget that day, because that's who Emma is. She's inviting, she's warm, she's about experiences for all. And I always appreciated that. And then at some point, Emma thought it would be really good for me to be a birthday present for somebody. So she called me and she goes, "Nell, I think that would you be interested in being a birthday present for a big friend of ours and a fan of women's basketball?" And I was like, well, okay. I mean, I trusted her, right? And so she sends a limousine to my house. And I get in this limousine and we drive to this party, and I get out, and I think I had a plastic bag around me with a red bow on my head, okay? And I jump out, and there is the birthday girl. And it was a phenomenal day. Of course it was, because Emma was involved in it. It was fun and it was exciting. And that individual that I was the birthday gift for turned out to be a wonderful friend of mine for the next 45 years, and it was an influence in my life. But of course she was, because she was a friend of Emma's and was somebody who enjoyed life, was again on another intellectual level that I wasn't on, but she always welcomed me onto her planet. So those were two experiences. There are many more. I can't go into detail about a whole lot of those, but I tell you, in the last 10 years, I worked with ESPN and called games for Longhorn Network, ESPN. And usually when you do that, you travel the country and you stay in hotels. I never stayed in a hotel when I came to Austin, never. I always stayed with Emma. Why? Because, you know, you think about, well, go to a hotel, have your peace and quiet and do that. No way was I doing that. What an honor it was and a joy it was for me for 5 years to come in and out of Austin and spend my time with Emma Lou Linn, telling stories, listening to her. I mean, talk about a positive person, someone who lifts you up, who helps you dream your dreams and helps and encourages you to go chase those dreams. I don't care how old you are, it does not matter. If you've got visions of something, Emma Lou will be for you. She will empower you and encourage you and help you along the way. I love this woman. She has been an influence in my life for so long. As I know, I'm probably speaking for many of you out there right now, but I'm so grateful that she's been in my life, and I look forward to many more years with her. So let's celebrate Emma Lou Linn.
Thank you.
I love you, man. Well, the fun tonight is about to start because we're going to get to hear from her and get to experience Emma Lou ourselves. And with that, Shannon Sedgwick is going to help us do that. Shannon has helped shape Austin into what it is today, and while keeping Austin weird, right? During her time as an advocate, she has served on the City of Austin Arts Commission, Leadership Texas, Downtown Austin Alliance, Old Pecan Street Association, 6th Street Austin, I-35 Coalition, and I know this list could go on and on. So Shannon, great job. Shannon and Michael Shelton launched Austin Favorites, Liberty Lunch, and Esther's Follies. How many of us have been to Esther's Follies? Yes. Those had to be some of the best nights of our life. And I know I've been there with some of y'all in this audience. So good job. So I'm going to turn it over right now to Shannon and Emma Lou Linn.
Thank you. Emma Lou, are you able to be heard on your mic? You want to test it
Oh,
out?
I don't know. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
It's my
all right.
voice, which is so wonderful. It goes clear to the back and echoes back
Pierces
here.
into their hearts. Yes.
Actually, it's a little thing that's sitting right here.
Well, we're going to get right into these questions because I know that every one of these questions is just a stopping off point that will get into more stories. And that's what we really are here to hear. We want to see what she's been doing with herself. So we go way back. First question, how did a girl from Rock Springs, Texas, become interested in psychology?
Well, it was amazing. I was assigned in the 8th grade careers that started with a P. And I knew I did not want to be a plumber. And then I saw that word psychology, and I thought, that's a word I've never heard before. So that's true, because I was from this little bitty town. And I investigated, and I decided that's what I'm going to be. And so that was it. I go to the University of Texas and sign up for psychology. And that was the first course I'd ever had. And actually, I loved it. So here I am.
So now you have your degree in psychology?
Well, actually, I did finish the 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
No, I actually got my PhD at the University of Texas. And it was an amazing adventure because I had never been, I think I had 11 people in my graduating class from Rock Springs. And I needed a job, so I'd walk up and down the streets in Austin and try to find a job, and I couldn't find one. They didn't hire students in those days, except for Lamb's Candy, next to the Greyhound bus station. And I signed, and the woman said, we don't have any, jobs at all. So I started walking out. She called me back. She said, okay, we're going to hire you. And I said, well, why in the world would you hire me so suddenly when you said no? And she said, it was your printing. My printing. And so then from then on, I printed everything. And that's how I got to where I am today.
Yes, everybody out there, start learning how to print again. None of this stuff with the. All right, what was your very best teaching moment?
To be honest with you, every morning when I would walk in to my class and see all the students there, it was just a big, for me, it's what I'd always thought I would be good at, and I was, and I really loved it, absolutely.
Did you have any influences of teachers that you kind of went off of, or were you just your own person?
I loved all my teachers except for one.
Oh,
She was my home economics teacher. And I was in the 9th grade, and I dyed my hair green. And she thought I was mentally ill. And anyway, I did not like it.
Little did she know. You were just way ahead of the game.
That's right.
Nowadays, people
Yeah, sure.
do their hair green constantly
Mhm.
and their dog's hair green too. So what is it about teaching that kept you coming back?
Because it's never a dull moment. It's just exciting every single day. Every student. I have some students here that I see, and I'm telling you, it's just a pleasure for me to see, students, to be with students and to teach.
So they had to force you to retire?
What?
Did they have to force you to retire?
Yeah, no, they didn't. No, they did not really. I just decided, I think I taught like off and on almost 50 years. I almost said a bad word.
Okay, you're on a mic.
Zip that.
That's right. Well, why do you think it is so important to conduct research?
Research?
Mm-hmm.
Well, research leads to wonderful things. Have you had your polio vaccination? How about your smallpox?
How about my COVID?
Yeah, that's what research leads to. And also Mars. When I was little, I wanted to be an astronomer more than anything. And I worked 3 summers to selling cloverine salve.
Oh, gosh.
And one woman I had went to, and she gave me $1, which was enough for 4 tubes of cloverine salve. And she wanted me to kill these little, I think she called them vermin or something like that, in her sink. And she gave me a hammer. I said, Miss Mary, I don't see anything in there. And I beat the hell out of that little thing, like that. And there wasn't anything in there. There was not any ants and any varmints or anything. And I got home that night and I told Daddy about it. And he said, she's an alcoholic. And that's what they call DTs. Anyway, that was quite an adventure.
So that was your first
And
research.
so I sold cloverine and salve for a lot longer after that. So anyway, it was good for everything. It would cure anything.
Oh, I know. It was on the back of comic books. So that's where I read about it. Well, was there any specific research that you did? In
Well, I
psychology?
did all kinds of research, rat research with children.
Yes.
And also I was in charge of the evaluation of Head Start in a bunch of states. And that was exciting because I got to see all different kinds of culture in the United States, all types of education systems. So that was really fascinating to me. I really liked research.
When you were starting to do your stuff here at St. Ed's, were you able to kind of learn from others that you were involved with and get into kind of be able to make it yours? Well,
yeah, there was some interesting, there's some students here where we did our own research, and St. Edward's did not like animal research, which I can understand why. But we wanted to have some rats and do some maize. And in my office, I've never told anybody this.
Getting it fresh.
We actually built a maze where we tested learning styles of rats. And the rats we really took care of, and we all took them home then as pets. So we were very humane.
Right. But they did teach you more about.
They do teach you to be humane at this university.
There you go. Well, we have a question that just comes out of nowhere, but I recognize why. What is it with the hats?
Well, gee, is that me?
Yes.
I had a headache that day. And that's pain radiation coming out. Anyway, hats. I loved hats since I was little. And in those days, this was way out in the country, they made bonnets for little girls, and it had little cardboard in them, and it came out like this, you know, and it impaired my ability to fight my cousins. So I got a cowboy hat, and then a really nice one from Mexico. So I always wore hats. I still have those same hats. Mhm.
Did you take that into your life when you were on the city council?
Yes,
Like you did?
I did. That's the day that I was, well, I don't know what they call it, sworn in.
Yeah.
I started to say inaugurated, but I
Yeah.
think that over kind of did it.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's when you started wearing your hats?
Uh-huh.
And did they call you the hat lady?
They did,
Oh, gosh.
yes, among other things.
So were you kind of a little bit crazy on the?
Was I a little bit crazy?
Yeah. Were
More
you-
than that.
Were they afraid of you? Were these guys, all these
Were
men
they-
in their suits?
Were people afraid of me?
Uh-huh. Were you
I
strong?
don't think so.
No?
No, I had some real threatening letters too, life threatening.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, yeah. And what I did was I kept them up on a bulletin board and looked at them every day. And I was made me very happy. And I wish those people would know about it. You know, that sent me notes like that. But one day even I had a little convertible, and I was driving in to the alley where I lived, and the police were there, and they grabbed me out of my car. It was a little convertible. And I had had a death threat or something, and they thought somebody was in my house. But it didn't keep me from acting like I wanted to.
What exactly what are the big moments for you for what you did for the city of Austin?
That I have what?
Well, that you have, the things that you got done for when you were on
Well, I
the city
think
council.
one of the first ones was, and real controversial, and it was ordinance in support of human rights of all people. And we had a whole entire groups of people in that ordinance that had never been protected. We had senior citizens, we had gay citizens, we had people with disabilities, and that ordinance passed. And so that caused a lot of, you know, unusual activity against me,
Yeah.
which I enjoyed. So it was pretty good, you know.
Yes.
When you grow up in a little town that's really, you know, in rugged country and everything, stuff like that doesn't really bother you. You know, it's tornadoes and falling in a cave and that kind of thing.
But not just stupid people.
No, no.
You can
Not
get
words,
way over
not
over their
words.
heads.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that the hats were just something that helped you, but that they weren't everything
No.
about you. What is an uppity woman?
An uppity woman,
Mhm.
and a woman who does not see limitations. You know, you can achieve whatever you are desired to.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Are you an uppity woman?
Still am, hoping for the pearly gates.
And how many uppity women have you made out of all these people here? Are there your students?
Probably, what is the percentage of women in the country now?
A lot.
Anybody know? 51% of these women are uppity women. Thank you.
Well, I know that the whole thing of persist is another one that comes out and you see on bumper stickers, but I mean, it just makes more sense that you would say an uppity woman is someone who just will not take no for an
That's
answer.
exactly right. Yeah,
I'm glad that no one was able to make you
thank you.
go down.
Thank you.
Yes. You have always supported the underdog. Where does that fight come from?
Well, I was the general of the neighborhood because we had some pretty much bullies that lived close to us. And so we had terrible rock fights. We had to draw trenches and throw rocks across, at the other people. And I was pretty smart. And so I knew a lot about throwing rocks. I had an uncle who was afraid to he was going to be drafted to World War II, and he had 5 children, 6 children. And the oldest was my cousin. And she had to take care of all the rest of them. And they would not let her come out and play. And we lived in a group of houses of all relatives. And so what I would do to get even with them, because they wouldn't let her play and they made her take care of all the children, I learned how to really throw rocks quite aptly. And I would stand on my side of the street and throw a rock over through the glass in their front window when they would not let her come. And it never worked. Never did. Bless her heart.
But I bet you they paid attention to your rock skills.
Yeah, they did. It was called whipping.
Well, did it work ever? I mean, she was still the underdog? You weren't able to get her on your side?
Well, I did that. Yes, I was a good fighter and also, smart. And
Well,
so,
that also happened. That probably stood you in good stead when you went to the city council, because
it was really
the women are
good
never-
training.
Yeah, right, right.
Uh-huh.
And down on 6th Street too.
Yeah,
for
oh,
that
yeah.
matter, because
Yeah,
we go back pretty far on 6th Street because we were both involved when I was doing Esther's, and of course she was living down there. And one of the very few people that did live on 6th Street, she and Jean Graber were, and David Graber too, but they were all involved in trying to decide how we could get 6th Street to be not just this, what they always call dirty 6th. And so I've always felt like you've been a big proponent of keeping the history of 6th Street alive and
right.
and not making it
Yeah.
a place where nobody could feel safe.
It had such a history with different groups of people, different settlers who came to Austin.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, remember the Lebanese, the
yeah,
Jabors, and
yeah.
all of that.
The grocery stores that if you couldn't get a loan from a bank, you could go down
Go
you
down
could
there
get
and
a
borrow
loan.
some money.
Right,
Uh-huh.
and pay it back.
Uh-huh.
The people took care of themselves and
Yeah.
took care of each other.
Yeah.
But
It was really
what made you
good
decide to be
community.
brave enough to go live downtown? Because not in a suburb or.
I don't think I ever even thought about it, but I loved it. And,
Right in the middle of the action.
everything,
Yeah.
and I'd have these great parties and that was a lot of fun too.
Mhm.
And then of course we started the festival.
Right. The Pecan Street Festival was really started by her and Jean Graber and David and a few other people, but mostly they just threw a big party and then they cleaned up afterwards.
Oh, yeah. I remember the first festival. I had a friend who was staying with me at the time, and we cleaned, the two of us, the entire street from Congress over to IH-35.
Yeah.
Cleaned it.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Can't imagine how that was.
Well, my husband was telling me that he wanted to make sure that he got something in about during the 60s when Emma Lou lived on 6th Street. She was the sergeant at arms for the street. She would go out in her robe and tell people, stop doing that or leave them alone and take care of that. And so she was the strong arm of everybody. And we miss you on 6th Street, of course, very much, very much. So, okay, it has been said that when you retired, just before the pandemic started, St. Ed's lost a bit of its heart. How can we keep your legacy alive?
Well, to be honest with you, I left my heart at St. Edmunds. So I lost my heart too.
You guys need to bring her back. Well, I know it's hard to do that, but what would you say is what would you say is the St. Ed's that made you love it so much here? What was the?
At St. Edwards,
Mhm.
because it has heart. It's magnificent. You know, all kinds of students. There's not discrimination. All kinds of professors with different belief systems. It's amazing to me that this university is like
Yeah, it's a
that.
lot different than UT, isn't it? It's much more home for everybody.
Yeah, it is.
You have met every president from Truman to Obama. Who was your favorite and why?
Truman and Eisenhower.
Oh, wow.
Even though you know I'm a good Democrat.
Yes, ma'am.
But Truman, I think, because he said bad words. And Eisenhower, because he was such a leader in World War II. And I was very interested as a little kid in World War II and afterwards, and then the treaties that were signed and the parts that Eisenhower played. And then, of course, Truman. I just
Yeah.
liked him.
What about their policies? Did you go for that?
Oh, yeah. I came from a family of Democrats. They never let anybody in the whole family vote for a Republican. I think they'd check the ballots before they left. I don't know, but anyway, and they were such Democrats and voters that I can remember, and I don't even know how it happened, but my mother was really sick during the elections. And I don't even know if they had absentee voting or anything, but it was election day. And they brought the ballot to her and she was in bed and she voted straight Democratic ticket. They would just take a big X and mark through it. I remember I sat with my aunt when I was, 4 or 5 years old. And I said, what did that big X through this whole line mean? And she said, you just can't have that. They are Republicans. And of course, that was after the Big Depression. And they were ranchers. And to try to up the price of beef, they actually killed some of their cattle. So it was hard times.
Do you feel like there are easier times now, or is it still pretty hard?
Much easier.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like, well, of course, I'm looking at Austin being, now everybody's saying it's the big city and now, everything's expensive but it does seem like sometimes that we're in as hard of a time as maybe not.
Well, and I
physically.
think in those days, it wasn't just struggling because you were a little upset about that or upset. I mean, there were people who were, really hungry and people who had been successful who were beggars on the street and that sort of thing. And I think that was just really rough times.
So you believed that you should be more in the style of FDR and take
And,
care of
and of
take
course
care of the people with the government.
everybody loved, FDR because of the war and everything. And I can remember the day he died. I was walking down the street and I went in to see Mrs. Hutt, and she was sitting in her chair. She was an old lady rocking. And I said, Miss Hutt, what's wrong? She said, well, our president died. Well, people were just panicked about that because he was seen as, the hero.
And he kind of was at that time.
At that time, yeah.
Yeah. So do you feel like nowadays we have as good of a chance of getting out of this recession and the war that is going on and things like that? I mean,
Yeah, I'm a real optimist.
all right.
I always think that we're going to overcome. whatever faces us. And we're really strong people, Americans are. And
Yes.
we find solutions.
Well, if they're like you, they are strong, bullheaded.
Thank you, but no.
You know, I would love it if some other people have some questions because, okay. Because that would be nice just to hear if something she has said has brought something to your mind and you want a question, stand up and I'll listen. Yes. Oh, okay, good. There you go.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
You-
Does anyone have any?
Oh, yeah. All right, Nan. All right.
Off. Emma, you were very much involved in the women's movement, not only here in Austin, but in Texas and across the nation. So I know there was a convention here at one point. Phyllis, our good friend Phyllis Schlafly was there, and we were concerned about her being in our town. Why don't you tell us a few stories about some of the shenanigans, let's say, that occurred during those years?
I didn't hear.
It's about during the time when Phyllis Schlafly was going
Oh,
whole hog.
oh,
Yeah.
man.
Tell us some stories.
We did the worst trick in the whole world. There was a big, huge convention and it was the women's movement. And if you don't know who Phyllis Schlafly, was, I'm sorry for you, because she was a woman who really was I don't know, what would you say about, she thought about equal rights for women.
No, she was just anti-woman, basically.
Yeah.
She
Anyway,
was-
so Nan and I are there at this big convention. And she is up there making her speech on the microphone. Nan is next in line to be the speaker, but Nan can't stand it. So she grabs the flower off, it was her hat, wasn't it? And throws the hat to me. And I'm across the room and I get it and run. And then I throw the hat to somebody else and to somebody else. And we've got the hat to this day
All right.
that we trade once a year. We'll trade the hat, Phyllis Schlafly's hat.
That's fantastic.
That could have led to big trouble, Nan.
Yeah. Right. We all want good trouble. Yeah. You're a troublemaker.
Well, no, I'm a trouble participant. You stole the flower, Nan.
We got a lady.
Did I
She
what?
wants you to tell the story about how your religious qualities, that why you were her daughters, her daughter's godmother. Why were you qualified to be that?
Why was I her godmother?
Yeah. Religiously qualified.
Oh, religiously. Oh,
That's called leading the question.
oh, I'm out of here. That's true. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, yeah, okay. So I sit next to a reverend, and the whole table there, we had to go through one whole day of lessons to be a qualified godmother. And so I sit next to this person who is a reverend, and he tells his story about his family and all of this, And I'm next to him and it comes my turn and I say, well, you're not going to believe it, but that my story is the same as his. And then it comes around again. And I said, once again, his story is the same as my story. And then once again. And finally they quit with that go around game. They got disgusted, I think. Anyway, that was bad.
Hey, Emma Lou. So I'm guessing a fair number of people have heard this story, but I would love for you to tell it again. The incident of the nun brownies.
Then the incident of the nun brownie,
Of the
The brownies and the nuns.
the brownies and the nuns. A story that you,
Students in the 1970s brought me that big dish of brownies.
yeah, the nuns ate them all. They were laced with marijuana. I had forgotten all about that.
and maybe that's a good thing. Although,
Maybe you had a brownie.
yeah, maybe. We got at least one more questions time if anybody wants to. 5 minutes, yeah. So we got at least one more question, probably two. Anybody want? Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
What's your favorite memory from women's athletics at St. Edward's?
At St. Edward's? Well, one of the things is I was one of the coaches, okay. And our gym was a broken down building where you could look through the floor and see the ground, okay. And they didn't have women's athletics. So the Sister Ann Crane and I decided we were going to get things going. And so we got some support, to say the least. Or maybe that is, we didn't. No, we did. But anyway, I went and I bought all the uniforms from Rooster Andrews. And that was our first setting, and I was one of the coaches. And boy, I'm telling you, it was sort of up and down, but I remember we got to a big tournament. We had a really good volleyball team and got to a good tournament. And I was the real coach of the team, but you know, and some of the people involved were supposed to have cars arranged for us when we got there. And we got there and nobody had any cars ready. And so having lived on 6th Street and been there at that time, I knew how to wheel and deal. And I found some unusual people who had some unusual cars. And so I dealt with them, and we were able to rent a van, and that's what we got around in. And we never got the money that, I don't know, never mind. Okay.
It's the same problem that women never get paid as much, right? Right. But obviously they're doing pretty well here at St. Ed. So I know that everyone here is just would love you to know that they appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
And that you are one of the best things that have come out of this city and
you.
this university. And I think everyone here would probably say that. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
We're not done quite yet. Hello, everyone. My name is Joe DiMederos. I'm the Vice President for University Advancement here at St. Edward's. And I've had the enviable pleasure of being a hallmate to Dr. Lynn here for the past, been a while.
Many
Many years, 18 plus years. And it's been just a joy I always know when class is in session because you can hear the party down the hall, and you can hear the hard work being done in her office. She surrounds herself with her students and her teaching assistants, and there's some serious work being done in there, some serious learning being done in there, and some real mentoring, real teaching. It's the kind of environment that everyone would hope their children would get to experience at some point in their lives. Thank you, Emma Lou. So my job tonight is to do a few announcements to wrap things up. And I'd be remiss if I didn't first correct the record. Nell Fortner is a current head coach at Georgia Tech. So, but she's also led the USA women's basketball team to gold medal in 2000. So Nell, congratulations. We'll keep rooting for you. Also, Shannon, thank you for engaging in that lovely conversation. I have heard some of those stories, Emma Lou, but not quite all of them. But they were neat nonetheless to hear them again. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. Also, we couldn't have this celebration without you. And frankly, this has been in the works now for more than 2 years. Before the pandemic, we had talked when she was about to head out, and I said, you know, you got to tell these stories to everyone. We can't, you know, we got to share these stories. And she said, let's do an evening. Would you be interested in doing this? She's like, of course, yeah, let's do it. But it took another uppity woman to kind of actually make it happen. So I want to acknowledge my colleague, Natalie Hester, who's here. For all her work in planning this evening, and to her co-conspirator, Lauren Love. Lauren, thank you for. I got a little surprise for you. This isn't the first, it's a second. There's something I want to read for you, okay?
Uh-huh.
All right. Yeah. All right. So, whereas Emma Lou Linn, rodeo queen, women's athletic coach, uppity woman, Pecan Street Festival founder, historic building champion, and St. Edward's University professor emeritus, grew up in Rock Springs, Texas, and quickly found her way to Austin, Texas. Whereas, as the second female Austin City Council member, this uppity woman created an anti-discrimination ordinance that included age, physical disabilities, and sexual orientation. Whereas, Council Member Lynn helped write the first historic ordinance in Austin, served on our first historic landmark commission, bought, restored, and lived in a building on 6th Street, which now enjoys a spot on the National Register of Historic Places. Whereas Emma Lou was honored by the Pecan Street Festival with their Heritage Award for her role in helping to form the Old Pecan Street Association and co-founding the festival. Whereas Emma Lou was and continues to be a community convener who supports the Virgos in her locale by celebrating them through music, libations, and dance at the annual Virgo parties. Whereas Dr. Lynn was a psychology professor at St. Edward's University for 50 plus years and taught over 5,000 students, winning multiple teaching awards, spending countless hours researching with her teaching assistants, affectionately known as the Linfantry.
That's true.
Whereas Emma Lou has consistently and relentlessly recognized young people's potential and mentored them into the professionals and community leaders that they are today. Much of student learning came through lively debates in her historic main building office overlooking Austin. Whereas Emma Lou coached many athletes in the years after the passage of Title IX, she established the first women's athletics program at St. Edward's University and the University of Texas at Austin. Whereas Emma Lou Linn has changed Austin for the better through her involvement in our community. Her impact on St. Edward's University graduates and the Hilltop community is so significant that she has received the lifetime honor of Professor Emerita.
Wow.
Now, therefore, I'm speaking on behalf, of course, I, Steve Adler, Mayor of the City of Austin, Texas, do hereby proclaim April 6, 2022 as Dr. Emma Lou Linn Day in Austin, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Austin to be affixed this 6th day of April in the year 2022. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Serve some lobster.
Awesome.
All right. Well, the surprises aren't over yet. I whispered in her ear, I said, that deserves some lobster. So I grew up in New England where we have lobster.
That's right.
And we quickly discovered our shared love of all things lobster,
Lobster.
all kinds of lobster. Well, tonight we don't have lobster, but we have something else. So when Natalie was planning this event, she reached out to someone named Mark. And he immediately said, I want to help. So tonight we're going to have a reception with Ropolo's Pizza, hosted by Mark Ropolo and his family,
Oh, boy.
to honor you. He wanted
That's
to do this for
great.
us.
That's great. Thank you.
And we thank Mark for that. I learned that his grandparents, Sicilian immigrants, and his mother, Rosalie, would every week would host during the Depression, would bring in and literally feed the community during the Depression. She would say, no family is going to go hungry in our neighborhood. And I know he's been with you for more than 20 years, I understand. So we thank him, and please, if you have a chance to patronage his business. I know the truck outside, that's all him. And so I invite everyone to please join us for some pizza, some drinks, and to continue the celebration of our dear friend, Emma Lou Linn. And again, thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. Did I miss anything? No. So that concludes our formal event. Thanks to everyone. Make your way.
Thanks,
Lovely
everybody.
reception. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.